Now, I fully understand that a gas tax holiday alone is not going to fix the problem, but it will provide families some immediate relief, just a little bit of breathing room as we continue working to bring down prices for the long haul.
That was President Biden yesterday calling for a federal gas tax holiday. But with inflation pushing up prices across the board, he acknowledges the measure would not have a huge impact on things. If Congress were to go along, it would suspend the federal gas tax for 3 months, saving drivers about 18 cents a gallon on regular, 24 cents a gallon on diesel. The president also asking states to suspend their own gas taxes. But lawmakers mostly not on board with the idea. It's unlikely Congress will make it happen, and not just Republican lawmakers, by the way, some in the president's own administration. His speech is already having little impact on the futures market, with the Dow set to jump slightly at the open. Joining us now, columnist and editor of the New York Times DealBook, co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box, Andrew Ross Sorkin, and Business Insider columnist Lynette Lopez, who covers politics, economics, and international markets. Good morning to you both. Lynette, let me begin with you sitting here with me in the studio. The gas tax holiday means what for the average consumer, if it in fact happens, and it may not?
I agree with all of the people who are saying that this is kind of and I hate to use this word, nothing burger. It's not going to help so much. And I think what President Biden is trying to do is show that he is on top of this problem and that he cares deeply about it. He's trying to use the limits of his office. I think we're in an affordability crisis right now. And so a lot of his previous policy ideas that he can't get through Congress, like helping people with childcare and stuff, that would be more helpful around the margins for this inflation situation. But I don't think that he's going to get that out of Congress. So he's doing whatever he can, and it's just not going to be enough.
Yeah, Andrew, we're hearing even from some Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, others who've been lukewarm around this. They want to support the president, but they've been on the record saying it's probably not going to do much. Treasury officials, the same there. So what's the reaction on Wall Street, and what does this do for the economy, if anything?
The reaction on Wall Street has been to yawn for the most part, and I think it goes to the same issue that I'm actually surprised that Nancy Pelosi and others inside the party haven't been more supportive, because what I would have thought was, at minimum, and is this idea that the president wants to show I'm doing something, and come November and the midterms, I want to at least be able to point to something and say, we tried this, or at least we tried to help the American people. Again, it is very de minimis. It's a minimal piece of help, and is more theatrics than anything else. But by the way, we shouldn't actually poo-poo it completely. There are people who would benefit from this, and the American public would benefit slightly, but it's not going to change the larger equation. It's not going to change what may or may not happen to our economy, what Jay Powell is likely going to have to continue to do to try to slow things down here.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about major press availabilities announcing federal gas tax holidays. I mean, you can announce it, but it, again, it's not a huge piece that's going to make a major move. We're also watching Capitol Hill in less than an hour. Fed Chair Jerome Powell will testify before the House Financial Services Committee. It comes after he testified on the Senate side yesterday and warned that a recession is, quote, certainly a possibility due to the Fed rates hikes, with senators like Elizabeth Warren putting him on notice.
Chair Powell, will gas prices go down as a result of your interest rate increase?
I would not think so, no.
Chair Powell, will the Fed's interest rate increases bring food prices down for families?
No, I wouldn't say so, no.
You know what's worse than high inflation and low unemployment? It's high inflation and a recession with millions of people out of work. And I hope you'll reconsider that as you drive this, before you drive this economy off a cliff.
So, Andrew, what are the options beyond raising rates or even almost forcing a recession on the U.S. economy?
Look, I mean, I think Elizabeth Warren, I think, would let the economy continue to run hot. I mean, that's what it sounds like. You know, there are not many options. And at the end of the day,
what are
Jay
the other
Powell
options?
There are. I hate to say it. If stability is what you're trying to do, if you're trying to bring down inflation, the only way to do it is, I hate to say it, I don't want to say to topple the economy into a recession, but to effectively try to slow things down. It's almost impossible to do that without forcing a recession. And at the end of the day, that is probably what has to happen. That is not
Because
something
what
that is
happens
politically
if you don't
palatable
do
to
it?
anybody.
What
What'd you say?
happens if you don't do it? What happens if you don't do it?
If you don't do it, I think you continue to have this skyrocketing inflation story. And I think long term, that is a much higher tax on the American people because it's something that can get completely and utterly out of control. We haven't gotten to the out of control situation and what that means long term to the U.S. economy, what it means to our ability to pay our debts. All of that becomes very complicated if rates continue to go up, 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 up.
Lynette, you're writing about this in your new piece. I don't think it's posted yet, but I'm going to steal your lead. I hope you don't mind.
Do it.
Wall Street is afraid the economy has entered an inflation feedback loop from hell in which wages and prices push each other up until the Federal Reserve is forced to do something drastic, cause a recession. Is that where we are? Is that where we're going, where the Fed says we've got to slam on the brakes and it might push us into a recession?
That's the nightmare. The nightmare is that inflation isn't just about a dislocation of supply and demand anymore. Now it's a psychological thing where everybody's worried that prices are going to go up, so they raise their prices, so they raise their, and it's on and on and on. This is something that can only be broken by a shock to the system. That's what happened in the 1980s, and that's what Wall Street fears is the situation right now. Now, if it's not that situation, then we'll see inflation has peaked. We'll see it starts going down as supply chains fix themselves and people do this merry-go-round of job searching that they've been doing. But if the nightmare is real, if we are in a wage price spiral, then it's very possible that the Fed has to raise rates really, really high in a way that shocks the economy. Remember that the Fed has two mandates. One is to keep unemployment low, and the other is price stability. If we don't think prices are going to be tomorrow what they are today, that creates an unstable society. It's like building our economy on a bunch of sand, like a bunch of quicksand, because everybody's constantly going to be pushing their prices up. That's what Andrew is talking about, is this kind of scary situation that the Fed is trying to prevent. The Fed would like us to go back to an economy like what we had before the pandemic, where wages were rising and there was a little bit of inflation, but the wages were going up faster, so we could keep up. Now we can't keep up, and that just means that the longer this goes on, the more desperate and the more difficult the situation is going to get for individuals. And so I understand that this is not what anyone wants to hear. The Fed is like taking a machete to a patient instead of a scalpel. You know, if you really wanted to target people who are in a tough situation, you would help the poorest Americans with energy prices, with food prices, because that is where their wallets are really going to hurt. But we have a Congress that doesn't do things like that, that doesn't make common sense policies like that. It's very silly. So now they're throwing all of this on the Federal Reserve, which has this blunt instrument, this huge machete that it's going to use to hack away at the patient while we figure this out, instead of Congress taking the scalpel and saying, hey, poor people need help. Hey, people in these kinds of jobs need help. Let's help them.
What a terrible position to be in. You have to stall the economy to save it effectively if you're the Fed. Business Insider's Lynette Lopez and CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin. Great insights from both. Good to see you. Thanks.